Be someone somebody wants to follow. You can't just walk in a room and say, hey, do this. You actually have to create that ahead of time. And so I work at making sure that I am creating that, or it's not successful. It's not successful to be powerful if you don't create something that somebody wants to follow. Doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean they're following the right person, but you have to create that.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
All right, we're live from the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios today in Laguna Beach, California. And this week we are just rolling out incredible women on the show. And today's guest is no different. I'm really excited to chat with her. She's an entrepreneur, a little bit of a TV star, we could say, and just an incredible dynamic woman. Ann Kaplan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's so nice to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
So I was hoping we could start by talking about one of your books, How to Be Successful in Spite of Yourself. The name is great. What inspired this name of How to Be Successful in Spite of Yourself?
Well, if you look at the cover, it was how to be successful in spite of him. And often as women, we will look back and say, oh, that divorce was bad. I had a terrible upbringing, or my father was this or that. And we blame our divorce and we blame our ex, for example. And as I started writing, I thought, it's not the ex, it's not our upbringing, it's how we deal with all of it. So I crossed out him and put in spite of yourself, because it's you that has to get out of the way to deal with it and not blame your problems on what happened in the past, but move forward and not blame it on other people.
So I believe that, and the book discusses your life story, doesn't it? I'm hoping you could share that context in our audience to kick it off.
I can. The book starts out, I talk quite a bit about my life story. And originally, when I was writing the book, it was a lot more about my story. And then I thought, oh, no, you know what? I don't want to talk about myself. So here I am talking about myself, but I didn't want to talk about myself. So I took out a lot of it, and it went right into the things that you could do to get out of your own way, how to be successful. And when the editor got the copy, she came back and said, Anne, you need to be relatable. You need to talk about yourself. You need to be a human being, not just help people what to do, but you show that you've had struggles, show what you've gotten through. So they put back in some of the things that I had put in the original copy of the book, which was a lot longer. And then when I read it, I actually sat there and cried, because I don't live thinking about my upbringing or my first marriage. I actually don't think about it at all. But when I read it, it just brought me back, and I sat there and cried reading the book.
So you trademarked motto is whatever you do, whoever you are, own it. Just like my show, I love it.
Yes.
As you're aware, the name of my podcast is I Own It. And I suspect we're talking about the same concept of radical personal accountability and empowerment. Is that right? And
exactly.
when in your life did this motto become your motto?
I think when I had to sum up, when I was doing the Real Housewives, they came up with a motto for me, and it was, don't be a gold digger, own the mine. And I thought that's interesting that they would say that, because I'm an unusual woman, that I actually am a businesswoman and I actually have made it on my own. And I believe that what you say, you should be accountable for it as well. And the accountability, as you just said. And so it was from that, I thought, you can't really make excuses. You should own every word that comes out of your mouth, and saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, or something like that. It just doesn't work. For me, it doesn't work. It's just, you didn't mean it. You shouldn't have done it.
It's such a great point, because you control your own actions, your own behavior. There's a saying that negative emotions are really when you avoid your responsibilities. That's when they're created. And so you have to own your actions and realize you create everything in your life, which I'm sure you understand, just like you have. You've been wildly successful and you created that. No one else gave it to you. You had to create it. And that's a great lesson. So what does power mean to you, Ann? I mean, personally, traits and daily habits that have led you to this success.
I work very hard. I don't think that people can be truly successful in business without working super hard. So I'm a hard worker. I get up and it doesn't matter how much has to be done that day, I get it done. But I'm organized, I manage that. And I understand that I create a comfort level with the people that I want to work with or the people that follow, that they'll listen. So I believe in order to be a good leader and in order to have some power, that you have to be someone somebody wants to follow. You can't just walk in a room and say, hey, do this. You actually have to create that ahead of time. And so I work at making sure that I am creating that, or it's not successful. It's not successful to be powerful if you don't create something that somebody wants to follow. Doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean they're following the right person, but you have to create that.
Oh, I love that. So your book and inspirational materials talk about of getting out of your own way, which is not easy for people. So for our listeners, elaborate more on what that means to you and maybe a few examples that make it so real to you.
When I do give lectures, often with women, they'll come up to me afterwards and I'll be talking about, just live your biggest life, get out there and do whatever you want to do. You could be anything. A talk like that. And then quietly, women will come up to me and they'll say something such as, well, I was thinking of getting married and I've got to have these kids. And then I don't think that my fiance is going to like it if I'm working here or working there. And you realize that we start to get in our own way before we ever do anything. We start to say, I'm going to be a people pleaser. I'm going to please people. Well, there's no reason you can't please people, but still be a strong, strong personality and be yourself and own all your actions and be successful.
So let's switch gears because I love talking business, especially with a great leader like yourself. You started iFinance in 1996 for everyone to hear this. And you should look into this. It's incredible. What inspired you to start it? And what were you hoping to achieve in the consumer finance space?
I started a finance company to fund medical procedures, and that was in Canada when we were going into a two-tiered medical system. And I was concerned, as they have in the United States, that people would have to pay out of pocket. So I started that in 1996. I did expand into the US, and as well, we went from medical to financing dental to financing veterinary procedures. At the same time, I did my master's of science and my doctorate. And for my studies, I took the data from the company and wrote a algorithm that determined whether the clients that we had would default on a loan or not. So I wrote an algorithm that was a competitor, so to speak, to the FICO credit score using existing data. And so I did those things consecutively and then created a point of sale finance model where you could pay, where you click at checkout. So you go on to, for example, Amazon and you click at checkout and it says you have an option to pay in 10 monthly payments or 4 monthly payments. So I created a POS model as well that you could click at checkout. And I had never envisioned that we would grow as fast as we did. So the first 12 months, we did $1 million in business. In the 13th month, we did $1 million in that month alone. And it was like a snowball, and you're running down a hill, and the snowball is coming after you. I guess in California, you don't have snowballs, but you've got this snowball that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're running ahead of it. If you can picture that, and it's going down the hill, and you're trying to keep in front of it. So that was 1996, and we went through $2 billion in loan applications at the time I left the company. So it was started to solve a problem, and it ended at a completely different direction than I thought it would.
And your business expansion and in areas were so intriguing to me as I did the research, including financing dental, pets, and home improvement. I own commercial real estate around the United States. My company does, and we're specialists in medical office, veterinarian office, and so it really connected with me what you did, and dental as well. And the story behind creating subsidiary companies focused on specific reasons for customers to borrow money. I don't believe that approach is that common, is it?
It is not common, but there were different marketing angles. So there was MetaCard, Pet Card, Dental Card. There were different marketing angles, but the documents were all the same, and they would all go into the same pool, call it a pool of loans. So you had a loan for your dog for its veterinary service. You had a loan for breast implants for medical. You had a loan to get um, dental work done. So all of those loans will be marketed to their niche markets through their doctors. So the doctors are on the niche markets online. But once those loans are adjudicated, once those loans have been loaned, it just becomes a number and goes into one pool. So it really is just a marketing strategy with one loan offer, but all different ways it's marketed, and nobody does it like that.
I
They're
love
either
that.
they're they're thinking of the volume. I think in business, people think, "Oh, I'm going to loan money," and they think of the volume, and we're going to make this much, and we're going to do that. They don't think of the distribution. How do you get that customer? If you reverse engineer, how am I going to get the customer? Don't worry about the volume. Just figure out how you're going to get the customer, and then reverse engineer it back to the first document.
Oh, it's so well said. Now, when you had these pool loans, were you selling them off to institutions, or are you portfolio getting the return? What was the strategy behind it?
I was pooling all the loans and selling them off, which is called securitization. So it was non-asset based securitization. That means that we didn't have any asset. So someone would say, what happens if someone doesn't pay? Well, these loans were average $5,000 loans, and they would go up to 25, 30,000, but on average 5,000. We would go after their if we had to go into collections and then don't respond, we will go after their paycheck. So we wouldn't be able to go back and take someone's implants out or take their dog or something like that. So we would go after their paycheck. And people generally for $5,000 don't want to wreck their credit. They don't want to have someone go and confiscate their next paycheck. So, we knew what we were doing. We learned over time, and we knew what we were doing.
What kind of interest rate can you charge on a loan for $5,000?
So we would charge about 6% fee up front, and then on average about 18.95% interest. So we were averaging about 24, 25% interest. If someone had very good credit, they could get their interest down to about 7.95. This is pre the current interest rate hike.
Right. Understood. So what's been your biggest win to date?
Some people would say their marriage. Some people would say their kids. I wouldn't say all my kids, only some of them are really good. My biggest win to date, I think, is living happy. I live always in the same way I am right now. I'm always happy. So I think that's probably my biggest win.
Describe
Or
what,
do you mean financial win?
well, it could be anything. I mean, well, let's get there. So describe what it took to get you to the place of ultimate achievement.
Well, not unlike you, years ago, not to put a sad story on anything, but I was very caught up. My sister was dying, and my mother was in the hospital, and she'd broken her neck. And I had 6 kids at home, and I was working full time running a finance company. So I was flying across the country to be with my family, with my sister and with my mother in the hospital. And I was trying to manage this. And it was a very, very difficult time. And this went on for a couple of years, about a year and a half. And when I came out of that period, the bank said to me, and the business was running, I was still working. And the bank said, Ann, you can't sit on money like this. And I said, what money? Because I had not even looked to see what we were making. And I had opened an insurance company as well by then, Creditors Life and Disability. And they said, you need to deploy that money somehow. And I'm not really a stock market person, so I like to control where my money is. So they said, you could, instead of renting your office, you could buy an office space and put your office in it. So it's easier to get a loan on an owner-occupied loan for a commercial real estate, as you would know then. So I ended up looking for real estate that I could put my offices in. So I had offices across Canada. And then I thought, this is really expensive to buy one office in a building. And then I looked at the price of buildings. I thought, I could buy the building. So I went back to the bank and said, I found a couple buildings. Would it matter if I bought a building? And they said, no, you could buy both those buildings. That's how much I had in the bank. And so they leveraged it very well because it was owner occupied. So I put the minimal amount down to make sense that the would cover the mortgage and the taxes, and the operating costs were billed separately. And I started to buy buildings, and I started to kind of figure it out. I called up two guys that were really strong in real estate, and for each of them, I asked to meet alone. And I said, how do I structure this, to one of them? And I brought a girlfriend of mine that was in real estate so they wouldn't think that I was hustling them. Can I have a meeting alone with you? And these are very successful, wealthy men that are in real estate. And they told me how to structure the corporations and why you would structure it. And the other person told me how I would set up the accounting and how I would service the buildings. And so I asked for help, but I asked for help without asking for money, which most people think when you phone up and say, can you help me? I said, I don't want money. I just need advice, 1 hour of your time. And then I sent them a nice, thank you note. And I can't remember what I did, bought them a dinner card, and that was it. But that was my start into real estate. And so years later, I have, now with my husband, we have 11 amazing income earning properties.
All right.
So
look at you. I love the commercial real estate talk. Well, now you have Ben Reinberg in your life. So whenever you need help, you just reach out. I mean, this is what I know and love. And so absolutely, I think that's fantastic. So what's next for you? With absolutely no barriers, no limits, where do you see yourself? Let's say in like 10 years, what's going on with the Ann Kaplan?
Well, I intend to live every day to the fullest, and I call it living unscripted.
Uh-huh.
And we recently moved to London, England, but we still have homes in other places. But we were looking for an apartment in London, and it's very expensive right now, especially in London. And then we're going into a recession, and I thought, no way, I'm going to spend money on real estate in London in an apartment when we could be declining by about 10%, 15% in a year. That's my guesstimate in London. So the price of housing will likely go down. We're going into quite a recession here and quite challenging times. People have a hard time even affording electricity. And so I said, forget it. We'll rent in London. And then I was just curious. I thought, I wonder what a house costs. So I looked at houses and I thought, I wonder what a castle cost. And I found this castle that has his wedding venue in Kent, just an hour outside of London, door to door. And I inquired about this castle and I ended up buying it, and at a very, very good price. And then I opened up a wedding venue just recently, and I plan on opening a tourist attraction there.
Oh,
and this is all just fun.
okay.
But what was interesting was we had a big opening on Monday. We had a hog roast because the king was coronated.
Uh-huh.
There was a coronation and there was a bank holiday. And so we had a coronation party and a hog roast. And without any marketing, but only on Facebook, Instagram, and then putting some flyers out, expecting about 300 people, over 1,000 people showed up for this hog roast, and we had axe throwing, and
oh God,
it was insanity. Insanity.
I'm getting hungry thinking about that. That sounds amazing. I like the axe throwing angle.
Axe throwing. We had archery.
Was there drinking going on at this thing with the axe?
Oh, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
God. Sounds
they like their beer.
Thank God you understand insurance, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So your websites includes in the line, which I thought was great. She's earned everything she has, just like I have, making her completely unapologetic about her extravagant lifestyle. I have to ask you this. I'm curious. What inspired you to include that line? And are people often looking for you to apologize or tone down your wealth?
So it must have been my it must have been one of the people that does my social media that put that in there because it missed it. But it is true. I'm unapologetic. You can't get embarrassed about having something, and I do give back a lot, but I feel that if you have something, you have to be cognizant of how you appear. Um, but it's very hard to be in a position that I'm in where I'm so public and um, and I'm so out there now that it's hard to say, oh, woe's me, I'm struggling. So and part of doing reality TV, which I'm scheduled to do another show coming up,
Oh, what are you
part of
doing?
doing a show which it's supposed to be called, and which is still to be confirmed, the name of Queen of the Castle, and it's
Huh?
on the renovation. So at the same time that I was looking at the castle, I was scheduled to do a TV show, a
Okay.
reality show. And I went back to the producers and said, don't you think it would be interesting to do something around building a castle? And then the staff and all the things that happened to it. And they liked that even more. And so that's where that's gone. But you have to be unapologetic for who you are, or why be who you are?
That's right.
So then there's a lot more humor in self-deprecating humor when you can actually be honest of the type of person that you are.
I love that because being your authentic self is everything.
Yes.
I always say work on that inner game because you know what, that inner game will show on the outside and really provide a lot of benefit to people around you. I gotta be honest with you, Ann. I never heard of you until you came on because I don't watch TV. So when someone said she's on the Real Housewives, I was like, okay, great. And so and then I looked into it, I said, oh, this is an interesting concept, Real Housewives. And so what's your favorite part about being on the Real Housewives? Like, tell me about your experience and what it was like.
I think every minute that we were filming, I loved it. And I think I was the only housewife that never said, "Can I retake that scene?" Because I figure if you're going to say it, just say it. And you don't really have to think about it when you're okay who you are. And I probably spent all my time putting my foot in my mouth, but that's just my personality. It's just I say what I'm thinking, and I don't have there's not a mean, cruel side that I would really hurt somebody about something that was sensitive. So you have to be able to read people to know how far you can tease them or take them. And I, I loved, I love the filming. I actually don't watch the show either, Ben. So
All right.
I
Well,
watched it once, and that's
then we can hang out.
yeah. It's I don't watch it either. So
So, so what do you, I mean, you look fabulous, by the way. What do you do for your health? I'm big into my health. I have a trainer. I work out. I eat well. I do stem cells. I'm big into the bio hacking stuff. And, now that I'm a young 53 years old, what does a dynamic lady like you do for your health that you could share with our audience?
well, I only drink a white wine that isn't too sweet.
Okay.
I work out heavily. I travel. I do sports when I'm traveling. So if I go to Hawaii, I go kayaking.
Mhm.
If I'm in Finland, I'm doing, hiking and horseshoeing, no, snowshoeing or riding reindeer. I'm doing the sports that are to the area that I'm traveling in. So it's not unusual to go bike riding and go 250 miles and to hike the West Coast Trail. So I'm very, very, very active. I'm into skincare routines, into whatever you put in your body should be working. So I do a lot of antioxidants in the morning for skin. So that means the dark blueberries, because the dark blueberries are the most antioxidants. So
Okay.
they're more than strawberries. And I don't put things in my body that are going to be not good for me. Um,
That.
and I enjoy that food. I enjoy food. I love cooking, but I'll cook more Thai food with coconut milk and things
Ooh.
like that. Not pastas. I find that the flour doesn't do anything for me, so I don't eat flour.
So can you make like a good pad thai for me?
I can make a good pad thai. I can
Really?
make a great pad
Oh,
thai.
you got
Especially rice noodle.
yeah, you got the Thai chili paste. I'm there.
Mm,
Oh, I love
yeah.
that. Love that. Great part of the world, Thailand,
Yes, it is.
by the way. So the name of the show is I Own It, Ann.
Yeah.
And you know as well as everyone, we are all works in progress. Share a recent example where you realized you had it wrong and you didn't own it fully.
Oh, where you have it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a recent one where I've had it wrong. I've had so many. So many. I think just even to do with the castle.
Uh-huh.
So that would be recently. I have a way of doing things, and I didn't think about the difference in the cultures of how people do things. And I was very set on pushing things forward in a certain way. But the cultures and the local communities do things a lot differently. They're almost holding hands and bonded together, and that's how they operate. They welcome you in, and in spite of all the stuff that goes on, and they say that the English are so snobby and they're racist or they push you out. It's actually very opposite for that. So I was prepared to go in and say, this is how you do things, not realizing there's a whole community that has a way they do things. And I had to sort of step back and say, I got this wrong. I mean, they're telling me how to do things, and that's how it should be.
That's so great. What a great lesson that is for you.
Yeah, it was actually tearful because you don't realize how sometimes you got to just sort of slap yourself and say, get over yourself.
It's great.
Wake up.
Yeah, great advice. Do you do any personal development, meditate, anything, working on yourself frequently? What do you do to kind of create this holistic lifestyle you got going on?
I grew up doing with the good fortune of one of my fathers, one of his wives,
Mhm.
took me to different gurus, and we would go when I was a young girl. So up until maybe in my 20s, we would go to Bhagwan Shah Rajneesh, Deepak Chopra, Cassandra, different Swami Muktananda, different gurus that we would go and sit with and listen to how they were. And I felt that this feeling that what you do and who you are and what you believe in is very personal. So constantly to work on yourself, but you don't need to discuss it. And so when my kids say, do you believe in God? I say to them, what I believe in is my business. And they don't quite understand that my feeling is that you work on yourself constantly, and who you are and how you portray yourself comes from that inner work that you do. So I'm constantly doing inner talks, seeing if I look like I've hurt someone or if someone looks puzzled or misunderstood. I'm trying to be more aware and more compassionate as well, and not be so busy that I'm missing where I could have done something to help somebody or care for somebody.
So you give yourself enough space to take a step back and say, what's really going on here? How did I behave? Let me be aware of my actions, my thoughts. Is that some of the things you do?
Yes, a lot of what I do. Um, my daughter has opened up a lot to me and told me to just sort of have an idea of, um, how I am and how I could help. And at first I thought, well, who are you to say that? And then I started to take it seriously. I started to think about words that she said. Because if someone who cares about you says something, maybe it's a good idea to listen. And I realized that I wasn't, I was being a little bit blind to a lot. So she's helped me out a lot by just saying, look at yourself.
It's so well said. I mean, sometimes when people are talking, it's not only listening to the words, but seeking the truth in what they're telling you. What I had to learn a while back, and that changed my life. And what that does is, even like we're talking now,
Yeah.
builds that deep connection with people. And when you can build a deep connection, there's nothing more rewarding than to have that.
Yeah. And I also think very strongly that if you come to a realization that, yeah, you've been a jerk, or you've done something wrong, is not to harp on it. Just learn from it. It's okay to say to yourself, because you don't owe it to anyone else, hey, that wasn't a good move, but don't beat yourself up. Actually learn from it and admit to yourself. You don't have to admit to other people. That was not a good move. So it's easier if you know you're not going to be condemned for an action that you've had or some way that you've been when you can make the change. But if you have to apologize to anyone, including yourself, then it's harder to admit you're wrong in an action. So just don't beat yourself up, move on, and don't do it again.
What's the best way for our audience, Ann, to follow you, engage with you? You're such a dynamic woman that offers such great lessons. You're sophisticated, intelligent, good role model. How would people engage with you and follow you? Like, where do they find you?
I have my Instagram
Okay.
is Ann Kaplan with a K _ own it.
Oh,
Great words, own it.
okay.
And there's a website, DRM2, like drm2.com and annkaplan.com.
You know, you would think with the commercial real estate and the own it thing, we're soulmates.
Yeah. I couldn't believe, I thought, is there some typo or something in there? Or when that was sent to me, I thought, oh, okay, someone just took it from my stuff I do and put own it there. And
No,
then
no, I didn't even know
I
who
go
you
back and look.
were. I thought the other thing, I was like, oh my God, she's a fan of mine. I love her.
I am now.
Okay, I appreciate it. So we're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. I've been waiting for you to come on. And so now you have a fan because now I can watch TV and look for you. So I'm excited to connect with you. All right. So if you're in Laguna Beach with me, we have a couch. Okay. And I would say, Ann, lay down on the couch. How old are you now?
If we're in Laguna Beach and you have a couch and you say, Ann, lay down on the couch, how old am I?
How old are you?
23. In
You're
this story?
No, in real life, because it
Oh,
have you go back in time. So
in
how old are you now?
right now I'm 62 or 63.
63. Okay. So you're this beautiful, sophisticated 63-year-old, and you're on the couch. I say, close your eyes. Go back to when you were 16 years old. You have all
Okay.
this experience, all this knowledge, the ups and downs of life and business, relationships. What could you tell your 16-year-old self to give advice knowing what you know now?
What would I tell my 16-year-old self? Don't beat yourself up and you'll get through it. That's what I would say. You'll get through it.
Okay. Well said.
Yeah, I think, 16, that's such a hard age for a girl. Oh my
It's
goodness.
so tough. It's so tough for a girl.
Yeah.
But it's probably good. But you get stronger and thicker skin and know how to start dealing with men, I guess. So it's probably a good.
You never know how to deal with men.
No, I think women are experts at dealing with men. They seem to read us really well. Don't you think?
I think you can become very good at manipulating and you can become very good at getting your own way. But dealing with men, it's just let it's not even men. Let people be who they are.
Exactly. It's our last day on earth. God forbid. It's just me and you. It's our last meal together. It's your choice, Ann. What are we eating and what are we drinking together?
Oh, well, if it was our last meal, I'd want to make sure that you had what you like.
No, this isn't about me. This is about you. You get to choose. I'm riding shotgun with you no matter what.
I would have a Thai red curry vegan with
Ooh.
tofu
Okay.
and Chardonnay.
Okay. I'm not the Chardonnay guy, but I guess I'll go with you. It's our last meal, so we'll roll.
California Chardonnay.
Oh, okay. So in our studio, and by the way, if you're ever in Laguna Beach, you're more than welcome to come over and stop by. We'd love to have you. In our studio, we have a grand piano and drum set and electric and acoustical guitars. And we have a black door. And if you could have any band or musician, they could be living or deceased, walk through the black door. It's just you and me in studio, play us a song. Who would you have walk through that door and what song would they play us?
Well, I just lost my dear friend Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what song I would have him play, but I would like him to walk through the door.
Okay.
Maybe because I just lost him.
Is there one song you could pick that you can play for us?
I cannot pick a song.
Okay. No worries. Well, Ann Kaplan, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today on the I Own It show, because you own it. So if you're interested in listening to more episodes like this that we just dropped with Ann Kaplan, kick that right-hand button and click subscribe. Please click the like button as many times as possible so we can share this incredible knowledge and content that Ann shared with us. And like I say always, let it go viral. And to follow me, go to benreinberg.com. I am on all different social media platforms. Feel free to learn about me, and I'll be teaching commercial real estate around the world. And if you are interested in learning more about my company, go to alliancecgc.com. We are the leaders in commercial real estate investing. If you're interested in investing passively in our brand new Alliance Medical Property Fund, we are the leaders in the medical office business. So feel free to log on. Ann Kaplan, what a treat. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hang out for a little bit. Love to chat with you further. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.